What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Smite tier list. If you haven't seen any of my tier lists before, just be aware that this probably is going to be pretty long. There are now 80 gods in the game, so I want to go through each one, make sure I say a couple sentences about how I think they're doing in the meta, but I try to spend not as much time as maybe I would like to, just because I want to make it relatively short. That being said, if you're watching this tier list for the first time, you haven't seen any of my other ones, I do focus on pro play, mainly PC play, and like higher level ranked. So if you're like looking for a casual tier list or lower end ranked, this isn't really the video for you because casual play, you can pretty much play whatever god you want and do okay. So tier lists they're not really relevant to that kind of play style. So just be aware of that once we start getting into it. Of course, recently ALG has had some drama. There's been a lot going on in the SPL now. Incon and Weekend are fighting, so I do want to talk about that since I'm releasing this video as that stuff is happening. So there's going to be a podcast coming up. I have a few friends who they're going to start joining me. I did release podcast number 1 about 2 weeks ago. So I'm looking to do that more and more in the future. So if you're interested in having like a good conversation about Smite, or just want to hear some of our insights on, what's happening with ALG, how we thought the lands went, make sure to check out that podcast. It's going to be coming up soon, hopefully. And also, if you are interested in joining the conversation, please let me know. I think that'd be great to have other guests on. So I'm open to anyone doing that. But that is not this video. This video is going to be a tier list, so we'll get into it. We'll start with Ogni. So Ogni is right where he usually is in the A tier. He's one of those gods that doesn't change very often. He did get a little bit of a buff a couple patches ago to his Flame Wave and his Fume combo, but it didn't change him that much. He's still solid mage, doesn't do the best damage in the world. He has a good mid game, very good at stealing objectives. But other than that, he's not amazing in any aspects of the game. So solid, but right where he needs to be, right in the A tier. Amu's and Cab, so I would put him a little bit above where he used to be. Of course, if you didn't know, they buffed his hives. His hives are now wards. They also have a bigger range than they used to, and you can also see that range at all times. So you don't have to activate your 3 in order to see when your passive is going to be activated. So I think those are some good changes. He still is very slow, very gankable, gets focused quite a bit. He's not going to be played viably because of these buffs. Like, I just don't see that happening. But I do think he is a little bit better. It was a step in the right direction. So he's still the B, but he's in B plus. Apwash did also get buffed recently. They decreased the mana cost of some of his abilities. They also buffed some of his base stats. I think that's pretty good because he does use quite a lot of mana. You really have to use all 3 of your normal abilities in order to get as much damage as you can, and to get all your burst off. So not only does that mean that you're going to have your abilities on cooldown all at the same time, but it means that you're going to be using bursts of mana, and that can be a real big issue for his early game. So I think those changes were helpful to him, but he's still not great. His kit is just, his burst is not the best. So he's going to be in B tier for me. On her is right in the middle as well. I think he is very balanced. He doesn't really carry games that hard. On her is more of like a mid game hunter. Also early, he has a strong early game as well. But the mid game is really where he shines. Objective fights, he's very good with his ultimate. He's a very good hunter in the jungle. Very good. The pillar is great in those corners. The ultimate is another ability that you can just kind of shoot down those narrow alleyways and just kill everyone, which is great. So he's great in the when teams start to group up in the mid game and start to go for objectives. That's really what he does best. But he's kind of a backup hunter. He's never going to be like the best ever. He's more of like a flavor pick. If maybe they ban some other good hunters, you can pick on her as a backup. I think that's a good spot for him. Alma Taurasi is good. She's A+. I don't think she's the best solo laner. You can definitely focus her early to make sure that she isn't super strong late game. Of course, her aura ability and her ultimates are very, very strong in the late game, so that's why she's, people pick her quite a bit. But she wasn't picked that much in the SPL. She did play a little bit, but I think there were other solo laners that were a bit more popular. Anubis is still bad. There's nothing that's really changed with him. Um, Again, in pro play, ranked in high levels of ranked play, you should know how to focus in Anubis early. Make sure that, if you're a mid laner, you can get Aegis. Try to dodge his wraps. If usually you can tell when Anubis is going to wrap you. So play smart, avoid his wraps, and then make sure your jungler knows what they're doing, and you should be all set against an Anubis. Alquang is still one of the best junglers in the game. Homie Efe played Alquang quite a bit. It also got banned a lot in Group D of the SPL. So his biggest issue is that Polynomicon is too strong on him. It offers too much burst damage compared to other junglers, because physical junglers don't have an item like that. It just doesn't exist. So that kind of puts him, as far as damage goes, a little bit higher. So once he gets it online and he gets to the late game, he can definitely be a hyper carry. So that's what he does. He's one of the best characters in the game, and unless they like do something strange with his kit or change how Poly is, I don't see him just leaving there either. Aphrodite is pretty bad. Aphrodite is just like every other healer. She can get focused super early, and the difference between focusing an Afro compared to focusing Anubis is Anubis can actually come back at you and wrap you and ult you if you try to gank him. Aphrodite cannot. She can stun you, but she's still not going to get away. She doesn't have an escape. She doesn't have enough damage to really do much. So you can gank an Aphrodite without worrying. You can just be, oh yeah, I'll just whatever, and she's more than likely going to die. So healers in general are just still not doing very well. Apollo is right where he needs to be. I think Apollo should be the Ogni of hunters, and what I mean by that is he should always be balanced. The last time that Apollo was in the A tier, which I think was either early season 3 or late season 2, they buffed some of his stats and they made him broken, and then Golden Bow made him even more broken. So they don't need to change Apollo. I think, the last time they changed him, it was a mistake. He should just stay in the A tier. That's where he should be. Because he is a good hunter, and if that's your playstyle, then you can play him and do very well. So Arachne I think is a lot better. I used to have her in the B tier. I'm gonna put her in A tier, mainly because of the changes to a lot of different items. So Stone Cutting Sword is the biggest one. As a basic attack hunter, that item is going to help Arachne and Kali very much. It'll also help Bacchus, but not as well as Arachne and Kali. The other one is Heartseeker. That also got some buffs recently, and I think it could totally be used on her. So that's good. And the movement speed on both those items is another reason to pick it up now. Another item that, of course, got buffed recently that everyone seems to be using now is Hydra's Lament. You could absolutely play that on Arachne. I think it would do very well. So the item changes are really bringing Arachne back in the meta. I think Hi-Rez knows that base attack junglers are very fickle, very fragile kind of characters, so you have to be careful with them. Bacchus, for instance, he's feast or famine. He's either terrible or he becomes broken. So you really have to be careful with those changes. But I think she's doing okay right now. Can be played in the jungle. Aries is also A tier, completely vanilla support. Doesn't have good wave clear, has great control. If you were good at hitting those chains, then he's the god for you. But overall, he can feed, and they're just better. There's better peel out there. There's better wave clear. There's better team fighters than Aries. Even though the ultimate is strong, it's just he doesn't have the complete package. So I think he's good, can be picked, but it wouldn't be my first pick ever. Artemis is in the B tier, probably because of the buffs to AMC, is probably the worst hunter. Again, she can get picked off pretty easily in the early game. She has very bad early clear. If you can survive though, you can do pretty well late game. But even a fed Artemis, can get destroyed if she's not careful because she doesn't have an escape. So she's not in a good spot. Athena is the best god in the game right now. She, for some reason, dropped off for a little bit. I put her in the A+ tier. She's now the best support. She's getting first banned all the time now. There's no real reason behind it other than that. I think just everyone is now realizing that the taunt is very, very strong. You really want that ability. in your team fights, and she's not hard either. She's a very easy god to play. There's not too much risk when you play in Athena, and her setup is just amazing. So again, she's kind of like a raw in that there's no real reason why she's doing better. It's just the way it is. It's just, people are, for a while, Bacchus was the number one, and then Fafnir came out. He became the number one, and because both Bacchus and Fafnir were kind of considered, broken guardians, Athena just wasn't at that same level. People forgot about her for a little bit, but now she's back. Now everyone wants to play Athena. Awilix is good. I think she's A plus because of Hydra's Lament. That's an item that does very well with Awilix. It just makes sense with her kit. So she's good, and again, Suku is super strong. Having that movement speed, especially in the early game, allows her to harass jungle camps, to steal every jungle camp, and to just gank more often than other junglers. So if you're a Wheelix, you should be out rotating every other jungler, except for maybe like a Thor. But yeah, she's very, very strong right now. Bacchus, I'd put in A plus. They buffed his healing reduction for some reason on his burp. I don't know why they felt the need to buff anything on Bacchus. He's still very good. Not the best support anymore. Again, there's no real reason behind it. He got buffed. He didn't get nerfed. But I think for some reason things just change when pro play happens. So when a big LAN like this happens, a month long LAN, with 4 groups happening, different gods are going to come out of that just because maybe certain pro players are just feeling that way. They're like, oh, I'm going to play Athena in this LAN because, Athena is more reliable. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So Bacchus just kind of taking a step back is really all it is. Bakasura, I think, he's a weird one because he is a basic attack jungler. All of these items that, Stone Cutting Sword, Heartseeker, Hydra Lament, I think all of these items do help him, but I don't see him having as much control as a jungler as Arachne or Kali. I think it just makes sense to play those. They're just safer than he is. So I'll put him B plus. I think he's okay, but it won't be played won't be played in pro play at all. It just won't happen. Bastet. So Bastet did get played by mainly DJ Pernicus in the pro league. That's really his god right now. That's what he's known for at the moment. She's good. She's great at split pushing, and of course her early game is very good as well. They did buff her recently too. I think they gave her some more damage and something else. I don't remember. I think she's A. I think she's strong. I don't think she's the best jungler. It's DJ's god. There's no real reason to say that she's broken just because only DJ plays her. It's just not where she is. So if you want to split push, that's kind of your game. If you want to, at level 5, destroy a mid laner with your ultimate and dive that tower, then you can definitely play Bastet. Bellona, I think, has been bumped up. She got played quite a bit in the all of SPL. I think, Dimi played her in Group D. Some other people played her as well. I think I saw Benji pull her out. She's definitely a Benji god. So she got played quite a bit, and her laning is really, really good. She has a good mid game, good late game. She's an all around strong soul laner. And I would rather have a Bellona on my team than Alma Taurasi any day of the week. But they're still kind of on the same tier, to be honest. Cabrakan is not very good. I would put him in B plus. Can jungle, but is not a very serious god, it just makes more sense to have a more aggressive jungler that has more damage and can really, take over that early game. Cabrakan's not super early game focused. I think he's more of like a mid game kind of god. Once you get like items online and you get some actual damage, that's when he can be pretty good, but is not really taken seriously in the SPL. Camazotz. So Camazotz has been an interesting god recently. He came out, he was a little underpowered, so they buffed him. I think right now, honestly, he's A plus. He has crazy damage. Um, his heal is good. You know, he has very good sustain. Doesn't really have to back ever, which is a good thing. It's also not it can be bad as well because sometimes you may not get your kit online as much as you would like to. You do farm more, but you know, it's not always good to just be staying out there super long, especially if there's no camps, if all the camps have been taken, you know. Um, but his ultimate got buffed. They added an extra second to it, so that helps. And I don't really love his kit to be quite honest with you, but I do see Camazotz wreck quite a bit. Very good at diving towers, so he's in a good spot right now. I think A plus is a pretty fair assessment of where he is. Shock, so I would put Shock in A, to be honest with you. You know, he's the line is always, you know, win lane, lose game with Shock. I think he's a little bit past that, to be quite honest with you. You know, his they did buff him recently with more damage on the ultimate. Of course, his axe does not knock up with the ultimate anymore, but that's fine. That's not a huge deal. He really just needed some damage. He needed to be a little bit better in the mid to late game, which I think he does now. And his clear is still pretty good. Doesn't have the best control, only has a slow. That's really one of his issues. He's his like 0 hard CC. Um, I guess silence is probably a hard CC though. But still, it's not like this amazing control, you know. Chunga, so Chunga's not doing very well. Um, her early clear is really, really bad. You have to, if you're a jungler, you have to take care of your Chunga. And especially if you're playing against like a high clear, like an Isis, you know, or a Poseidon, or anyone with like strong early clear or raw, like they're gonna destroy you. You have zero chance. Even if you pick up Soulstone, um, your clear is just weak, very, very weak. So you have to be careful. The jungler's probably going to wreck you. So she's kind of in that same boat as Aphrodite and Hel. Chiron I think is fine. You know, did get played in the SPL by Ataraxia. Didn't do very well with him, but I think Chiron's kit is good, good clear, not amazing in any aspect of the game whatsoever. The only thing he's very good at is confirming kills, getting kills in the tower with his ultimate. That's the biggest thing. Kronos is good. I think very strong magical hunter right now. Not the best magical hunter, but you know, is getting seen in the pro league for sure. You know, Soul and Freya are just more preferred right now, which I think makes sense. But there's nothing wrong with Kronos. He's very, very good. He does have a high skill cap, of course. You have to have pretty good mechanics to play him, so that can make him a little tough. Cupid, so Cupid, you know, he got some play. Kiki played Cupid, didn't do very well with him. I don't think there was a single moment when I saw Kiki playing Cupid where I was like, this was a good pick, you know, it just didn't happen. I think Cupid is fine though. I think he's A. I think the buffs, you know, 2, 3 patches ago that happened were good. It made his clear pretty strong. His ultimate is, you know, it's good. It's he just is okay. I don't know. He's A tier. There's nothing wrong with Cupid. I think the change to his passive attack speed on his 3 does help him a lot. It allows him to go, if you want, you can go to like some early crit items. So it kind of depends on your playstyle too, how you want to build Cupid. Erlong Shen. Okay. Erlong Shen is a weird god. He didn't get played in Group D like at all, like not much. I don't know why. Erlong Shen is good. He's very, very good. He's an S tier character. The biggest reason I guess you could say that is he is a huge, huge flex pick. Probably one of the biggest flex picks I've ever seen in all of Smite. Erlong Shen support has been super popular, and it's good. He's you know, his pin is a great long range setup. That's the key to his kit. You know, if you're going in there thinking that you're going to be like the playmaker as Erlong Shen, you know, you should probably change your playstyle because Erlong Shen is all about that long range route to set up your other gods on your team. That's what his kit does, and he has the taunt as well, so he has an amazing amount of control as a warrior, which makes him a great support. You can also build a lot of damage and do a basic attack jungler kind of build. and he's great in the solo lane too. He has that, first of all, it's long range clear as a warrior, which is very rare. If you look at most warriors kits, they're not super long ranged. Even though the gods who have long range abilities like Amaterasu, Vamana, Osiris, they're still like focused more on the basic attacks than the wave clear. Erlong is the opposite. He has very strong ability based wave clear, and he also has that passive which gives him good basic attacks. So um, yeah, he just a great flex pick. You could play him jungle, you can play him support, you can play him solo, um, possibly mid. I haven't seen it, but maybe you could do it. I wouldn't be surprised. So he's one of the best gods in the game at the moment. I definitely think. Fafnir is good. I would put him on the same tier as Bacchus. Great team fighting, good early clear, fair early clear, good early aggression. Once he hits level 5, you're almost guaranteed to get a kill in lane. Um, and the two in team fights is very, very strong. The coerce ability in team fights is very strong. So, he's great. I think him and Bacchus though are on the same tier. I mean, I wouldn't quite put him in S. I just don't think he's there. Fenrir, I think, has been bumped up to A plus. I see him a lot when I play now. Um, of course, adapting plays Fenrir. I've seen him more and more in the SPL. He's one of those gods that is always pretty good. There's nothing wrong with picking a Fenrir, especially if you're going for that super early game aggression. If you look at teams like Energy, they win off those comps. They win off early game comps. Fenrir's early game aggression is what gets them their wins. That's why they're so good. So if you can match him up with a team that is also early game, so to me, Fenrir Isis is like an amazing matchup. It just makes sense to kind of go all in with him. So he's doing very well. Definitely pick him if you're a jungler. Start playing Fenrir. Freya. So Freya's up there as far as magical ADCs go. Did get played in the SPL and is just a solid pick. I would put her S. Honestly, I think Sol and Freya are the two best ADCs at the moment. And because magical ADCs are so popular, Freya is a hyper carry, and she's not only that, but if team her up with a Guardian with pretty good clear, then you can survive that early game. Because again, her early game is not the best. You can get ganked. It's tough to get out unless you get a good whoop in there or whatever. But once you get Haste and Fatalis online, that's when you start picking up the pace, get some more damage on her, get Demonic Grip or whatever. And you're probably going to carry. Even if you die early, you can still carry with a Freya. Geb, so Geb's okay. I don't know. Like I put him in A tier. I think he's actually fallen behind quite a bit. I don't think there's any real reason to pick him. The shield is good. He's very good defensively, but it makes more sense as a Guardian to be aggressive. And I think that's just a theme throughout. So Khepri, has kind of not been as popular as he used to be. Those defensive Guardians do have their place, but I don't think it's in the current meta. I think Bacchus, Fafnir, and Athena, they're able to go in there and initiate, whereas Geb is not going to do that. So, he does have his ultimate and his rollout. The rollout into the ultimates is a good initiator, but other than that, he just kind of has to back out of fights. Guan Yu is still A plus. Of course, he didn't have the greatest showing. Incon tried to play Guan Yu in Group B and was always out of position. Was not very good with Guan Yu at all. I think Guan Yu is actually kind of moving back towards maybe more of a solo lane role. And the reason behind that is because I think his kit and the way you really should be building Guan Yu is better in the solo lane. You want to build like Genji's guard on him, Breastplate of Valor, those kind of things. But if you're building full tank, as a support, it just doesn't really fit him as well. And you are kind of just like a healing machine in that case. Your Talu Assault isn't super effective. So I think having that kind of solo lane build makes more sense with Guan Yu. So that's why you're seeing him move back. Hades is not good. Probably should have his kit change. I did in my last podcast. I talked about Hades, so you can check that out if you like. His dash is not good. It takes too long for it to charge up. It also doesn't have that much damage on it, so that probably should be fixed. He really doesn't have any place. He's not a DPS mage, which gives him no role. Like he can't go solo really. He can like out clear in the solo lane, but once he gets to mid to late game, he's gonna die. So yeah, he's not very good. Hebo is also bad. Hebo's a joke. He has those like wimpy long, that wimpy long range ability, and that is his other found ability, whatever that's called. Um, does a lot of damage, but is easily ganked. Fenrir just hard counters his ultimate. Like it's pretty bad. You get a Fenrir against a Hebo, it's game over. Like you have no chance. So he's kind of funny, but he's not good. Hell is also going to be in this bottom tier for me. I think they need to change her. There's something that needs to be happen to Hell. They did buff her maybe 3-4 patches ago. I don't remember. It didn't do much. It really didn't do anything to the fact that she has one real wave clear ability, which puts her at higher risk because she has to stand in the middle of the wave. Her damage is not good. Her late game heal is great. That's what she's there for, but she can't make it to that point, without getting focused. If you see a Hell on the enemy team and you're not focusing her, that just means you don't know how to play Conquest. You don't know how to play Smite. So a Hell should never carry, should never get to that late game heal. So yeah, something needs to be changed with her kit for sure. Herc is good. Herc is fine. I'd put him in the A tier. There are definitely other warriors that should be picked before him. I honestly think that Hercules is an undervalued support choice. You could run Herc support and do very well with the heal. He has pretty good wave clear with his combo. He can catch someone way out of position, similar to a Sobek. So I would like to see more Herc support, and I am a support player usually. Maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll start pulling it out and see how it works. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. If more people started playing Herc support. Hu Yi is good. For some, I don't know why, but Hu Yi just fell out of the meta. Um, yeah, I don't. Again, he's one of those that you just can't explain it. I think it really doesn't have to do with anything that they nerfed with Hu Yi. They did nerf his. Oh, that's what they did. They changed the ricochet. This is a while ago now. To have higher base damage and less damage when it actually ricochets, which means that kind of lowers the skill cap of him, which means that you don't have to ricochet that ability off a wall in order to get like crazy damage. You can still just use it, just as a regular skill shot and do quite a bit of damage. So that was a little bit of a nerf there. But I think a lot more has to do with the fact that they buffed other hunters and they just kind of took over. So Hu Yi is good, but you're not seeing him very often anymore. Hun Batz. Hun Batz is very strong right now. Very strong. I saw Hun Batz a lot in the SPL. So the question is, should Hun Batz be S tier? That is the question. I'd say no. He was very, very popular, as I said. Captain Twig plays him. So many NA players. I'm not going to try to list all of them right now, but Hun Batz has a great amount of control. Not the best damage in general as a jungler. He's okay as far as damage goes, but the control with the ultimate is great. And if you build full cooldown on him, I think that is just a very good idea because he's kind of an ult machine, and that's really how he gets his kills. So, he's very good. Amazing team fighter. You really can't get a better team fighting jungler. Isis. So Isis has absolutely been pushed up. I just need to think here. Yeah, she's going to be A plus. So she fell off quite a bit, mainly because there were no power pots. But we're moving more towards very aggressive early game comps, as I said before. That's actually more of like an EU thing. So EU has been utilizing Isis a bit more than NA. So that's really why I'm placing her in A plus. But her clear is still amazing. It puts a lot of pressure on that enemy mid laner early. And having early pressure is huge. You really do need it. It allows you to rotate, allows you to get your camps. Because if you're a mid laner and you get to lane late, you have to try to clear your mid lane before you can go to mids. And then, let's say you waste time going to a mid camp that's already been cleared by an Isis. You've just wasted 10, 15 seconds. And now you're going to your back camps late. The Isis is going to get to lane before you, and then all of a sudden she's already started to chunk your tower. So you can see how it's a domino effect, and having that early clear is huge. So I think you're just seeing Isis be valued a little bit more because of that. Her ultimate is also great in teamfights, so that helps for the late game. Izanami is tough. I saw Izanami in the pro league, and I don't think she did well. I'm not a huge fan of her. I've been playing her a little bit more recently. I think she's fun, but she really is not great. Her ultimate misses quite a bit. It also doesn't do that much damage. She has great clear, can definitely sneak up on people and do that kind of thing, but there's nothing about her kit that's amazing. Like, she really just okay. I guess I'll put her in A tier. I'm leaning towards B plus, to be quite honest with you, but I don't think she's super viable in the SPL at all. I don't think you're going to see her much in the super regionals. Maybe some players will pull her out, but they probably will feed with her if they do. So Janice is the best mage at the moment, I think without question. Mid lane mage, not ADC. Definitely the best mage in the game by far. What usually happens with mid is, they'll buff someone or a new god will come out like Raijin, and they'll be kind of, they'll be the center of attention for a while. And then what'll happen is they'll nerf them. So they nerfed Raijin, and now he does a lot less damage with his Thunder Crash. So that takes Raijin out. Raijin's no longer the best mage in the game because of that. Other mages will then start to come in, like Raw. Raw is definitely probably going to be A plus rest for me. But what happens is when those mages, those hype mages, those flavor of the month picks, when they start to fall off, what you're left with is Janice, because Janice is always going to be super reliable, and once pro players start to reuse him, you start to see why he's so strong, and that's how kind of the meta works, at least in the mid lane, it seems. So Janice is in that spot right now. Raijin fell out, some other Vulcan was up there for a bit. He's fallen out, so Janice is right back up the top. Jingwei is still very strong, probably top 3 hunters in the game, I'd say. It's very tough for me to say whether she's like S or A plus. I'm actually gonna put her A plus. Her passive does allow her to get more farm, which is a little bit broken, but she does have a high skill cap, and that can just make her tough mechanically. I don't think that's a good reason to not put someone in S tier, just because they're tough mechanically, but I do think it can be a hindrance in some situations. But she's very good. She kind of wrecks. So Kali is better. I think I'd put Kali in A tier. Actually, no. I don't know. They buffed the passive. Of course, everyone knows about this Mark for Death change. You can now pick your target. You have to be in base, and there's like a menu you use to select who you want to have as your target. This seemed OP when it came out, but I don't see Kali carrying games at all. I still think her early game is a little weak. So we'll see. I could be very wrong on this. I'm not seeing what everyone else is seeing, which is that, even with the buff, Kali still suffers early. Even with the buffs to the items, the Stone Cutting Sword and Heartseeker and Hydra's Lament, I still don't see it. So maybe I'm missing something, but that's where I'd put it right now. I think A tier is safe. Khepri is also A tier, is strong. Again with Geb, one of those defensive guardians, has good wave clear. Can definitely focus on single targets. You know, he's very good at that root and then pull combo. So that's good for focusing on single targets. But again, team fight presence isn't amazing. It's really not. There are better team fighters out there. He's not an initiator, and that's not just not his role. Um, but unlike Geb, which actually might be a reason to put Geb lower. Actually, yeah, I think that this is a good reason. Khepri's clear is way better than Geb's. Geb's clear is awful. Um, so that to me puts Khepri above him. So that's a good reason I think to put Geb in B plus. Kukulkan is fine. I've been playing Kukulkan a lot recently just because I like to stomp on people. Um, and he's fun. He's probably the most fun mids in Smite, in my opinion. The issue with him is he has zero utility. If you look at this kid, he has zero. He has a slow and a tiny knock up that isn't very good. That's it. He has no utility, which I guess makes sense for someone who does so much damage. But it's kind of funny how like little utility he actually has. Kumba. So Kumba just had an awesome skin that came out one of the best skins ever. So he's SS. No, he's not. Yeah, he's fine. He's A plus. I have a lot of gods in this A plus tier right now. I think Kumba is definitely just as viable as Bacchus, just as viable as Fenrir right now. I mean Fafnir, not Fenrir. Um, very good control. His biggest issue is his early clear is very bad. Like it's horrible. He's a little risky as well in the early game, and you'll find yourself sitting in tower a lot when you play as Kumba, unless you have like super early clear with like a soul or something. But mid to late game, his peel is just very very strong, and his ultimate is a good way to confirm kills. If you want to steal some kills, definitely do that. So Loki, I'll put Loki in B. Hydra's Lament does make him a little bit better. I do not like Loki at all. He has a very low skill cap, which means that anyone can play him because he's not very hard. He can split push, but he's one of those characters that you should be able to take care of if you know what you're doing. So yeah, he's not very good. Medusa I think is fine. Does not get played ever. Really does not get played very often. I think she should be played more. If you build full pen on her, her ultimate can chunk people. She has very good early clear as well, so she does very well in almost all assets. Not a super hard carry, kind of in that on her group of more of a mid game kind of character, but can do very well. Merc is not very good either. I'll put him in B plus. He just gets out of position too much. His ultimate gets him out of position. His dash gets him out of position, and he's too squishy to kind of handle that. So not only that, but Golden Bow doesn't exist anymore. Golden Bow was a key to his kit, so he's really not that good because of that. Neith I think is good, probably A tier. There's nothing amazing about her. She's very safe. You can absolutely do well with her and carry, but her kit is just very boring. It's vanilla. I don't think anyone, I don't think there are any players out there, especially like pro players, who love Neith's kit. It's very like kind of boring. There's not much about it. That being said, I do see more Neiths now in like casual play. I mean, I don't play ranked as much right now, to be honest with you, but I do see Neith a little bit more. So whatever, she's A. Nemesis. So Nemesis did get picked in the SPL, and especially Group D. And the reason I'm focusing on Group D is because that's the one I really remember right now. And she got nerfed. She had some hits to her kit. I think she's fine though. I think she's A tier now. Pretty balanced. You can still play her. Just be aware that her early game is a little tough. But the ultimate's still strong. It's still a very good ability. Even though they nerfed it, it's still good. But her jungle clear is not strong at all. You probably want to pick up some Wrath on her to help with that out. If you can survive, if you can get to the mid game, though, she can do very well. Nausea. So I think Nausea is another one of those A tier junglers. High burst. Does a lot of damage. Can definitely do very well early game. Once he gets to level 5, he should almost always get a kill. So that's a good way to kind of ensure that you get fed. As long as you use your abilities the right way and you have good mechanics, you should be able to play Nausea. Nox, so of course MLC Stealth played Nox in the SPL and did very well with her. I still don't think she's amazing. I still think that her combo is too risky. It was fun to see MLC Stealth pull her out and kind of wreck with her, but that didn't put her into the meta. It definitely did not. People might want to believe that it did, but it didn't. It just MLC Stealth doing whatever he wants. MLC Stealth also only plays Kukulkan. Kukulkan is not like top tier. He's just not. So I think that's a big difference between one player wrecking with a god and one god kind of generally doing very well in a league. So Nuwa is okay. There's nothing great about Nuwa. She used to be one of my favorite characters. She's one of like the early gods that I played when I played Smite. I don't like her anymore, to be honest. I find her kid extremely boring. She just has that one burst combo that's just not great. Her early wave clear is awful. So I think she's like the Neath of mids, just very boring, vanilla kid, nothing special. Odin is fine. Odin is a good counter. He can be picked in certain situations. I think because of that, he absolutely is viable in certain situations. But other than that, there's no real reason to pick him. He's good because Ra is now in the meta. Odin's a good counter to Ra. That's probably when you want to use him. Osiris. So I think Osiris is very underrated. Probably the best soul laner right now because they nerfed Ravana like a little bit ago. Alma Taurasi has a weak early game. Osiris has an amazing early game. Can absolutely carry if you get enough damage on him. Can 100% carry a game. Let's say you're playing against a Ra or like a high healing comp. Osiris has full healing reduction on his ultimate. So, he can counter a Ra. Like, you really have so many things you can do with Osiris. I think he's underrated, S tier. Probably my favorite soul laner right now. Poseidon is bad. Poseidon's very, very bad. He's, everyone loves his ultimate. Who doesn't love the big Kraken ability? But he gets focused so bad. Like, it's horrible. And all you need is an Aegis, and you can counter him. He's another one of those, like, zero utility, not very interesting. Again, similar to Nuwa, Neath, very boring vanilla kit. He's kind of like to be honest, a beginner god. If you're a beginner to Smite, you probably are going to play Poseidon. But if you're starting to get serious, Poseidon just doesn't work. So Ra. So Ra's up there with Janice. The best, just wrecked with Ra. Ra got played all the time in Group D, especially after Group B, and I think even Group C he got played too. So the healing plus the ults, the snipes, the high damage, the wave clear, he has too much. And again, I mentioned this before. There's no real reason why Ra came back in the meta besides the fact that people realize having a utility healer makes sense. So that's why Guan Yu is so good. He can heal, but he can also do other things. And Ra has the damage, and he has the heals. If you look at like Aphrodite, she just has heals. Her damage is not good. Chunga's damage is horrible. Hell's damage is not good. But Ra has the damage, and he has the heals. It just makes sense to kind of have that utility healer with the damage, kind of wrapped up into one package. So he's very good. Raijin is fine. A little bit above A tier now. Of course, they nerfed his Thunder Crash, as I said. The ultimate is great in team fights. It's a great setup ability. And of course, if you build like full damage on him, his ultimate can be a great way to burst people down as well. Very good mid to late game mage. Very strong. Same with Janice. They're kind of they play that same kind of role. The mid to late game setup, So he's good. The nerfs hurt him a little bit, but not too bad. So Rama, I think, is probably the best hunter in the game. I take that back. Well, I say physical hunter in the game. I think he's up here in S with Freya, with Soul. Soul's going to definitely be in that S tier as well. Rama is one of those characters that, again, has a high skill cap, but people who know how to play Rama completely carry, and he's a hard carry. He's the hardest carry in the game, in my opinion. Like, his late game is ridiculous. So very good. All you have to do is make sure that you don't do anything stupid in the early game. He does have a dash, which sets him apart from Artemis and AMC. Um, so that's pretty big. So he's very safe, has the dash, but also just is crazy late game. So he's very, very strong. Ratatoskr is very good. I put him A plus. I think that's fair. He's a step above, those A tier, Bastet, Arachne. I think he's definitely a step above them. He's very good at diving towers with his ultimate. That's kind of like the biggest reason why he works. Very similar to Camazotz. Camazotz has a very similar, ability to at level 5 to dive into a tower. And then, of course, Ratatoskr can then dive out. So very good at confirming kills with his ultimate. And has pretty good burst as well. So he's very strong. Ravana is also a plus. I put him in the same group as Alma Taurasi, Bellona, Guan Yu. I think they're all kind of there. He did get nerfed, but is still a very strong early game bully. I think Osiris and Erlang Shen are both a step above him, because his mid to late game isn't super good. He's more of a support, more of like a tank character in those situations. Um, but again, he wins lane. He's like a better version of Shock, uh, you know. But it does. I guess his wave clear isn't long range, so that is a little risky. But because of his passive, it doesn't matter. So Scylla, okay. Now it's getting interesting. So Scylla is tough for me. Scylla got this weird buff, which was inexplicable. I don't know why they buffed her too, because it already did way too much damage. Um, I guess they just want Scylla to be in the meta for some reason. I'll put her A plus. To be quite honest with you, her kit still is pretty difficult, and even though she has a better early game now, her crush is like way too good. There's still some issues with her. You have to be able to set up your abilities. If you can't do that, you're not going to do very well. Um, she does have an escape though, a pretty good escape, so she's very strong. Verging on S tier, but I do think Janice and Raw are better than her. So Serket is fine. I actually don't like Serket right now. She used to be the best god in the game. Weekend tried to play Serket, fed on her. Homie FA did play Serket in Group D. I did see that. Uh, I'm sure other people played her as well, but she's okay. Very good burst. Can actually set up other characters well. She's very good matched up with Raw because she can use her taunt, her madness taunt, whatever that's called, and then her ultimate to kind of set up a Raw snipe. So that's actually a very good combo. She's good. Serket is, Serket. Scotty is not very good. I'll put her B plus though. She does have very good clear. Will not get played seriously in the pro league. You'll definitely not see her at all. You did see her some joke matches, which is pretty funny, but she's very easily ganked. The only real escape she has is her 3 and then her ultimate to stun people. That's pretty much her way of escaping, which isn't very good. So Sobek, Sobek is good. He's scary. His ultimate does a lot of damage. His pluck is almost a guaranteed win, guaranteed kill in the solo lane. I mean the dual lane if you pluck the ADC, and you have a hunter that can then follow up with the damage. So Sobek is scary. Very good team fight presence. Again, his pluck can be a little dangerous if you don't pluck someone the right direction. If you maybe let's say you throw an Ao Kwang right at your AMC, then you're in trouble. But if you know how to use him, if you're good with the pluck, he's very good. Sol is right up here with Freya in the S tier. I think both of those characters are equally good in the dual lane right now. Um, Sol's clear is better early game, and she is very, very good at taking down towers, and is also a very good carry. So she does too well in almost every aspect of the game. I think her early game should be nerfed. I think the damage on her 2 should probably be nerfed in the early game. So maybe season 4 you might see some of that, but right now she's very, very strong ADC. Wukong is good. Wukong is one of those kind of like on her Apollo, pick him when you want to. If there's a certain situations where you want to play Sun Wukong, do it. If it's your playstyle, he's very good, very strong. He has a stun, he has a heal, he has a good wave clear, great poke. He has a lot going on, so he actually has a lot of utility for a soul laner, like a lot. So Susie, Susie of course got that controversial nerf. I think he's fine though. Of course the ultimate's not as good. The Storm Kata nerf was a little strange. I think Hydra's Lament does make him a little bit better than maybe people originally thought. After the nerfs, Hydra's Lament is a very good item to get on him. So if you can use that item correctly in the Storm Kata, then he can do fine. And of course, just use your ultimate in the right situations for the knockup. Sylvanas. So Sylvanas, he's really bad. He's bad. I'll put him in B plus, but yeah, he gets focused super hard now. Whenever I play him, it's like there's nothing I can do besides buy sprint, try to get away when I can. But if you're not hitting your pulls, if you're not hitting your abilities, you're gonna be in big trouble. So he really does struggle. He has the MP5, which is nice, but that MP5 is useless late game. No one's gonna, you're not gonna place a flower in the late game just to get MP5. That's an early game ability. And his setup is really just okay. It's not great. Terra's setup, on the other hand, is very good. Terra is up here. I don't know what I was talking about best support. So her and Athena are top two. I don't know why I had forgotten about Terra, but Terra is still really, really strong. They nerfed some of her damage. I think they oh no, sorry. They nerfed the root time on her 3. They also they got rid of the slow on her 2. And, that was fine, but she's still great. The healing's super strong. The ultimate's insane. They did change they increased the cooldown on the ultimate, so that helped a little bit, but yeah, she's very scary to play against. I hate laning against Terra. Like, her clear is stupid. So, she's up there. I'm actually considering putting her in S+ with Athena. I'll leave her in S. I think it's fine. Thanatos got some weird buffs. Recently, I think they increased the silence. They also... Oh, yeah, they changed his passive. That was interesting. I haven't played Thanatos since this happened, so that's interesting. But they changed the way you lose health, so it's now percentage of health instead of just a specific amount of health. So if you're really low on health, you'll lose much less when you use abilities because it's just a percentage. So that's actually very, very good on him. I have not played him, so I'll have to try him out and see. But I think he's fine. He's, again, a strong early game god. They just made his early game even better now, so you can hopefully do okay in the mid to late game. You won't see him in the SPL, though. You still won't. Thor is one of those reliable junglers. Honestly, I'll put him in S. Thor got played by Anderson, just wrecked. Oh my god, he wrecked with Thor. Homie FA as well. So Thor's coming back. I think a lot of it has to do with there are certain junglers who just are very comfortable with Thor, and it doesn't matter what the meta is. It doesn't matter if there are certain junglers who are kind of in the meta more than Thor. There's still going to be players who will always pick Thor, and that reliability is huge, and that's why he's just so good. He's just always a good pick. So, yeah, he's definitely S tier. Tier is okay. He's good. He's a pretty good solo laner. He's not very popular at the moment. I don't think there's anything that sets him apart from other ones. He has a very strong heal. But they're just better. Like for instance, Alma Taurasi's team fight. That's huge. Ravana has better early clear than Tyr. Guan Yu has the heals. They're just things that other characters just do that set them apart from Tyr. And I don't think Tyr's kit is particularly amazing, right now. I mean, that being said, there are times when pro players play Tyr like all the time, and then I feel the opposite. So he's another one of those kind of like flavor of the month things, just not in the meta because people are finding uses in other soul laners. So Uller is, he's okay. You don't see Uller ever. There was a short period where they buffed him, and then he got played a little bit in the mid lane, a little bit more in the dual lane, but is not getting played at all. I think he's fine, but very high skill cap, uses quite a bit of mana. You have to build Transcendence on him early. Um, his clear is a lot better than it used to be, so that does help. He has pretty good clear, but it's just like why risk the danger of missing stuns, of missing your hail of arrows when you can just kind of go all out on a Jingwei, or you can go all out on a Rama. It just doesn't make sense. Vamana is fine too. I think he's A tier. Good solo laner. Got played a little bit, uh, in the lands, but his wave clear is not great. He can definitely get out of fights with his ultimate. He can dive towers with his ultimate as well, but is not, again, there's nothing that sets him apart from other soul laners. Vulcan, another A tier god, was very strong for a while, but has just fallen out. I think because people are realizing he is still risky. Vulcan is a very, very risky mid laner, and if you don't play him well, if you're not good mechanically, you're going to feed. And a lot of that comes down to early in the fall split when, especially EU, everyone in EU was playing Vulcan like every game. And, sometimes Vulcan would do good, sometimes he would carry, and sometimes he would do really badly. So that just kind of shows you the risk of Vulcan. So Shibalanke is up there. Now, used to be one of the worst hunters, but is now pretty good. I said before that early aggression is important, but there are definitely comps where Shibalanke just works very well. And this is another one of those gods where it's just a flavor thing, having, like I said, Rama has a strong late game. Shibalanke's late game is also very strong. If you match him up with a Guardian that has good early clear, then you're going to be okay. Also, a Guardian that has good peel is also not a bad idea. So getting Shibalanke to the late game is important, but once he's there, he's very strong. Next is Xing Chen. Xing Chen, I think, I don't like him, to be honest with you. I don't like his kit that much. I still think his ultimate's pretty bad. I'll put him in A tier. I think he can still do solo and do okay in there. Has not gotten played in the SPL though. Earlier in the fall split, he did get played like a little bit, but there's nothing about him that's amazing. Again, he's kind of just in the middle. Ymir is, I don't know. People are playing a lot more Ymir. I guess he's good, but I still think there's a lot of issues with him. He's one of those that I think can also just feed. If you're not careful with him, if you're not good with the walls, if you're not good mechanically with Ymir, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. I'll put him in A tier, to be honest with you. I don't think he deserves that spot, even though he's a very good flex pick, can be played jungle, can be played solo. I still think that he's a risk. He's a liability. Doesn't really have a good escape, so Zeus is fine. Zeus is also A tier. Can get focused early. The damage is good. Zero utility, that's fine. Doesn't really matter. But there's nothing about him that sets him apart. He's kind of just in a good spot, but can also be a liability. And then Zhang Kui. I think Zhang Kui is probably just a little bit below the A tier. Is a good team fight mage. Can be pretty tanky. You saw him get played in the solo lane by Variety. I think it was Variety. Yeah, it was. So maybe there's that flex pick option for him. But his clear isn't amazing. He has very short ranged abilities, so you have to get in the fight, which means you should probably build a little bit of tank on him if you don't want to die too much. And Shell just counters Zhang Kui, so that's another option if you're playing against him. So he's a step below, in my opinion. So that's it. That's the tier list. Let me know if you have any questions about it, if you agree or disagree on anything. Again, Athena, I think, is in the S plus tier because I do think that her first pick, first ban, presence in the lands really set her apart from all the other gods. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're getting into the super regionals and you're getting into the Smite World Championship, if you're seeing that reliance on her. lands, there's a lot more pressure when you play a land, and the land meta is completely different. So you want to be picking those gods that are a little bit more reliable. Um, so it just makes sense to play that kind of guardian, that very safe, reliable, the strong taunt. It's everything you want. So other than that, I don't really have much more. Again, I will be coming out with the podcast soon, and we'll go right into all the ALG stuff. We're going to talk about the lands, and we'll talk about all of that. So if you have any, again, any requests or suggestions for that podcast coming up, let me know. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.